When I'm not convincing people that the zombie apocalypse would be nowhere near as much fun as they think it would be, I like to answer questions that I get on YouTube. So let's get to it. Thoughts on pawn shop gear? I think the pawn shop thing has a lot to do with the level of gear you're looking at getting. Like if you're looking to get maybe some kind of vintage guitar, which I'll be totally honest, I have no idea how to like find the difference between like a knockoff like 57 Les Paul or whatever like that. I would definitely steer clear of pawn shops if you're looking at getting some vintage stuff, unless you for sure know exactly what you're looking for, because the odds of you getting ripped off are just too great. But when it comes to the cheaper stuff, I think you can still get some good deals. Now, albeit, I don't think you could get nearly as good a deals as you could maybe like 10 years ago. I just think it's way too easy to go on eBay and check out like sold auctions listings and stuff like that to see exactly what something is worth. So maybe back in the days when like a pawn shop guy didn't know anything about guitars, he might be selling like an American Strat for like $200 or whatever, something like that. I personally, in my own experience, I feel those days are kind of gone. Pawn shop guys are way more savvy to how the economy, the used gear economy works. So really, at that point, you're probably, and even then, like the stuff I see at pawn shops is really just about the same price as you could get at like used at Guitar Center, or like a music store or something like that. Now, however, there is something kind of cool about going into a pawn shop and finding a guitar. It's almost like you're rescuing a guitar from like the pound or something like that. So I'm all for just going to pawn shops just for like a life experience and being cultured and stuff like that. But personally, just in my own experience, I've never really seen great deals at pawn shops. And if you get like something from a bigger store that has some kind of return policy, you're guaranteed not to get burned. So check it out, but do so with caution. Oftentimes, I practice guitar for hours, days on end, and it feels like I'm getting nowhere. Does this happen to you? If so, how do you overcome it? So I think we all kind of feel that way. The interesting thing about learning guitar is that there are these very distinct plateaus that you can kind of feel yourself getting to, and maybe like you jump a level, especially when you're first starting out. It seems like you can actually double how good you were almost like on a weekly basis. But eventually you get to the point where you'll practice and it doesn't really seem like you're getting any better. But the interesting thing is you actually are getting better, you're just not noticing it. If you're really just practicing all the time, like there's no way you're not getting better. I think it's hard to see yourself and your own playing improve, whereas others might, just because you're kind of just doing the same thing. And even if you're getting better and you're getting cleaner, it might not be apparent to you. Now, one thing to do just to kind of get over that hurdle is practicing with a metronome. Like especially if you're looking at speed stuff, the beautiful thing about a metronome is it gives you a number, and that's just like an absolute goal that you can work on. So if your goal is to maybe play this piece at this tempo cleanly, you can feel something when you're doing it cleanly, right? Be like, okay, I can do it at 110, and then you practice for a while, and then eventually you can do it at 111, and then 112, and 113. So using a metronome in that way is a great way of kind of providing benchmarks so you know exactly when you are getting better. Because like let's face it, we've all been to places where we've had plateaus, and kind of getting to that next level is something that can be really hard to do sometimes. Another thing to do is really try to seek out other musicians, because I think just getting a perspective from someone else that plays an instrument, incorporating maybe things that they do into your own playing style, is something that helped me out a lot. I know for the longest time I never played with any other musicians. I would just play in my room and kind of do stuff, just on my own. And it was very apparent to me that I couldn't feel myself getting better at a certain amount of time. But then once I started playing with other people would mention, be like, hey, you're playing that a lot better. And just kind of like the community of being in musicians where like everybody is kind of growing together is like a really great thing to have to kind of keep you moving forward. What is the difference in tone between a classical guitar and a steel string guitar? So if you don't know, this is a steel string guitar, and I think most people would probably say that a normal guitar would have steel strings. The counterpart would be a nylon string guitar, otherwise known as like a classical or a flamenco string guitar. Steel strings are generally brighter sounding, and the attack on the strings is more prevalent, whereas nylon strings will be more mellow. But I think the best way to kind of do it is just to demonstrate the difference between them. So steel string fingerstyle. and just strummed with my thumb. Single notes. With a pick. So for listening homework this week, I want you to check out a band called Mesita. It's really just one guy. He does everything himself, and his new album just came out. You got to check it out. If you're into alternative music, like Radiohead-ish type stuff, I think you'll really dig it. I personally think it's the best album I've heard from top to bottom all year. He's not nearly as big as he deserves to be, so if you check him out, show him some love. And as always, any questions or comments you have, leave them below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thanks.